Hi, everybody. Welcome to Roadies and Rebels, the podcast. My guest today is my friend Ken Newman. This is a really good one. We had a great conversation. Ken talks about working. He's been a long time front of house mixer for Barry Manilow, but he also spent time with artists such as Paul Anka, Anita Baker, Shirley MacLaine, and others. And it's interesting what he says about their temperament. And I can tell you, if you think the notorious rock stars have attitudes, listen to Ken and his stories. All right, here we go. Hit it, Jasper.
Gossip for some is a real event. They strap on and button up their Sunday best. Stand straight and smile and do all the rest. Don't laugh, she family is ridiculous. Lying up bullshit. It came to rest and settle somehow I got fast. Yeah, I'm a little embarrassed.
Welcome, Ken Newman, to the Roadies and Rebels podcast. It's good to have you here. How you been?
All right, pretty good, pretty good. Just, bumming around.
Appearing on podcasts.
Yeah, nothing better to do, so here I am.
I see you around.
Okay.
I see you on Jan's podcast, which is,
Right.
God love him. I think it's cool seeing you guys there. I was on that one time, and it was hilarious.
Right. My son has a podcast, and he likes to talk about movies and stuff. So
Yeah,
his
what's it
friend,
called?
they talk about
I listened
movies.
to it.
It's called Movies and Shit.
Movies and shit. That's right. It's really good.
Yeah, you listen to it? Yeah.
Yeah,
I
you
know
got
he's-
me. You got me going.
He prides himself in high quality audio, and he records it. It's just audio, not like yours.
Right.
Yours is audio and video, and his is audio only. So he records it on his sound device or something, and then edits it and makes it sound as good as he can. And he loves doing that.
It sounded good, and I think I mentioned to you, I could tell it was your son.
Same voice, right?
Same voice. His podcast is really good. I enjoyed it. I'll keep
Good,
listening.
great.
So I want to talk at some point about, of course, Barry Manilow. But before we get into that, give me sort of the Reader's Digest version of your background, how you got into this. And you're
It's
a Jersey
a
guy,
long
right?
story, but I'll try to get you. I came from Jersey, and that's a metropolitan New York City area. My father had an electronics store, or a chain of them actually, that he got from his father. My parents met at RCA when my father was working. My father and mother were both working at RCA, so I had electronics in my blood. I mean, I like to say I came out of the womb soldering, so
Must have hurt your mom.
I'm sure. But she was a ham radio operator. My dad was a ham radio operator. They were both, active in ham radio in my youth. And then, so I as having access to all kinds of electronic things, went through all the different phases of electronics. So I went through CB radio and through ham radio, and then I was learning to play the trumpet in the elementary school band, and so I was involved in the band at the elementary school, and the band leader said, "We need to record the band. That would be great, right?" So I said, "Oh, my father has a store. We can sell you the tape
sure.
recorder and all that stuff," and we put together this whole recording setup and everything. And, by this time, of course, I had helped my father put in sound systems in the church and things like that. So I was like, yeah, let's just record the band. No big deal,
Right.
So that was my entry
Here we
into
go.
recording. This one band came to play at our high school, and it was a local, very popular local band. And those were the days when bands would play at high school dances. And so they were scheduled to play it. And the manager of the band came into our TV club in high school, and he said, we have an 8-track tape that we recorded at A&R Studios in New York City. Can you remix it? And I was like, well, we can't here, but I know where to do that. And he was like amazed that this 13-year-old knew how to do this stuff,
So
And
you
because
knew?
I
Did
had
you
already-
know? Did you know at that time what an 8-track was? I mean,
Oh yeah, because
you
I
were
forgot
into
to
it.
mention that. I forgot to mention that I became friends with somebody in our school that had a recording studio in his house, which was kind of unheard of in those days.
Yeah,
in those days,
definitely.
having a recording studio in your house was rather unique. Anyway, he lived in the next town over. I would bicycle over to his house every Sunday and hang out with him while he recorded the local rock bands, and it was fantastic. The manager said to me, remix this 8-track. I was like, yeah, I'm your guy. And before I know it, I mean, long story short, I ended up recording that band, direct to 2-track, which I still have that recording, by the way. And then did lots of stuff with that band, went on to work for that band, doing their sound, and one thing leads to another, and before you know it, I'm on the road with a national act doing sound for a real band.
That band? Was it that band?
And that band, that band got, he morphed into another band, and that band got a record contract with RCA Records, and so it was like one band to another, and then my sister was, I don't know how this happened, but my sister was going out with somebody in another band, and so that band hired me to do their sound too.
Because that's what sisters do. When you're a little kid, your sister is often the connection.
So it was great. I mean, I was, how old, like 15, 16, 17, somewhere in there.
The best.
And I was working for these bands, and then that band went on to do national tours, and they were on Columbia Records, and they were managed by a major promoter in the New York metropolitan area, and it was life-changing,
So
that just one thing leads to another, and then I worked for a sound company, and
what
it
sound
was just
company?
It was a small, Pa. I was going to say Ma and Pa, but it was a Pa sound company.
Ma had left. Ma got smart.
Yeah, right. So it was CSI Audio was the name of the company. It was a small company in Highland Park, New Jersey, right near New Brunswick. And my friend that worked at a sales company called Martin Audio in New York City, where I had bought some equipment for one of the bands I worked with. He said, "Oh, this guy CSI Audio needs a guy, so you could go work for him." So I worked for the sound company, and then I stopped working for the sound company, went back with the band. Go through changes and things that happen, and before you know it, I'm on the road with these national acts doing sound.
At what age were you on the road?
18.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, locally 16, and then like the manager of the band taught me how to drive a stick shift because he wanted me to drive the truck, that kind of stuff.
That could be a deal breaker for a lot of young men.
It was great.
It's got a clutch.
By the way, that. So I mean, that manager, by the way, just a little tidbit. That manager of that band went on to become the mayor of Hackensack, New Jersey. Which
really?
You've heard of Hackensack, right?
I've been there.
He became the mayor of Hackensack. That band manager. So just to show you how diplomatic he was.
There was a great Thai restaurant in Hackensack that Claudia and I went to all the time. Yep.
Wow.
Yeah, because it was near Hackensack is near Paramus, right?
Oh yeah, Paramus.
Yeah, because when I was at Crest Audio.
Oh yeah. Crest Audio is in Hawthorne. Now Hawthorne was
they were
one of the bands I worked for. Oh, did they move?
Well, yeah, they moved to Paramus, which is when I started working for them. Yeah. So I was constantly getting screwed up driving in New Jersey.
Oh, how about that? Oh, that's great.
Couldn't figure it out at all. By the time I left to go to work for Meyer, I'd sort of figured out how to get to Paramus.
Paramus is a major city. My sister still lives in New Jersey, and they just told me last week they went to the Paramus Park Mall to get some things.
Been there? Been there?
Yeah, there you go.
It's possible.
Small world, right?
Yeah. And I ended up, for such a non-New Jersey guy, I loved our time there. It was really something. What? I mean,
it's interesting because it's like New York light. It's like New York light.
Yep.
Right.
Once I got past
the New York, but
once I got past the yelling, I realized these are sweet people. They just yell.
Right.
When they like you, they're yelling.
Yep. Yeah, good stuff.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. Well, then that leads me to, this is a trick question. Do you remember when you and I met? Because I got the lowdown on it.
Wow, I don't remember when we met.
Oh, good.
It must have been
so what I say will be
true.
true.
Barry Manilow.
No, Anita Baker.
Oh, really? Oh, no kidding. Okay.
Yeah,
because I Meyer Sound at the time.
No, I was at Crest Audio, and here's the story. Oh, okay. I'm so glad you don't remember, because now whatever I tell you, you'll go, "Oh, okay." Because this has long bothered me, Ken, with you and me, because I keep thinking, I swear to God, I met him at Anita Baker, but I wasn't with Meyer, and I knew there was a Meyer. Anyway, I called Mark Johnson. You remember? I think you know Mark.
I know Mark, yeah.
Yeah, from Mark.
Yeah.
And I said, what's with me and Ken? can you fill in the blank? He said, oh, yeah, Greg, you worked for Crest. They were out with a Meyer thing. And I think maybe Mark you were in Atlantic City and you had
Okay.
Crest amps that were blowing up. It was an
Oh, no.
inrush current thing. So it was certainly serious, but it was the on-off switch was not capable of. So Crest, I don't know what got into them, sent me and Tim Chapman, if you remember Tim, to Atlantic City with a box of switches.
Oh, wow.
And I think whoever we dealt with was like, just give me the switches and go away.
Right.
Rightfully so.
Uh-huh.
But anyway, and it made me feel so much better because I said, I know I met Ken well before Barry Manilow, but I wasn't at
Well,
Meyer.
interestingly enough, I started working for Barry Manilow in 1992, and that Anita Baker gig was in 1994. So it was while I was working for Barry, but I took a little break to go work for Anita Baker.
She was something else. She was
Oh yeah, now I could tell you some Anita Baker stories, but the best
tough,
one is,
wasn't she?
well, here's the thing. She, remember this tour was sort of sponsored by Meyer, not sponsored financially, but just they were really
They were all over it. I remember.
Interested in it, making sure it went well.
Yeah.
And so Jamie Anderson was out there, and
That's who I was with.
Mark Johnson, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, and so the interesting thing was we played a 5-night engagement at the Universal Amphitheater. Remember when that existed?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
And in fact, I missed a Barry Manilow gig in order to do the Anita Baker gig because I had committed to the Anita Baker gig and I could not be there. Anyway, the point is, the worst review in the world came out after this second show or something like that. It was in LA Times. It was horrible. It was
in the
it was
LA
like,
Times.
oh, Anita Baker storms into the Universal Amphitheater. It's way too loud. The sound was this. The sound was that. I mean, it goes on, just reaming the sound.
All about the sound.
And so I said, it felt that way to me.
It wasn't her voice was rough or something.
Nope, nothing.
They were
that.
after
the
you.
sound was just wrong. The sound was just wrong.
Ouch.
So anyway, I first of all, being the youngster that I was, I called the LA Times and spoke to that reviewer and said, "Where were you? Where did you sit?"
They
because
love it when
I
you
was
do
at
that.
that concert and it sounded good to me. And he said, "Well, I just would have liked to have heard her voice a little more." I was like, well, you could have said that because I'm the guy that controls the sound and I'm about to get fired tonight. And so he says, oh, sorry about that. But I go into the Universal Amphitheater. I'm figuring there's no way I'm continuing to work for the show after that review.
I'm going to pack my little tools and go.
I was all ready to leave. And I get there and I go down to the stage and I say hi to Anita. And I said, hi, how's it going? And she was just, getting a feel for the stage for the day before sound check. And she was like, oh, good, things are great. I was like, oh, so you didn't see that review?
Have you read the paper?
She's like, no, listen, this is what she said. And remember, this is somebody who has a reputation for firing people at the drop of a hat.
Oh, very
right?
tough. She was pre-Prince when it came to stuff like that.
And she would just just fire you for looking at her the wrong way or something. But she said to me, oh, I don't read reviews. These people are my reviewers, pointing to the front row, and they love it. So we're doing good. Don't worry about a thing. I was like, oh my God, you are the best performer
I
I've
love
ever worked
you.
for. It was great, So
who would have thought
that's
you
a rare Anita Baker story, because normally you hear the stories about how she tells people to not touch the console or to leave or to put a security guard by the console or all these extreme moves that are just usually crazy by our standards. But anyway,
she was nice.
That was not what she did that day. I think it was partly because of the whole Meyer thing. The whole Meyer was smoothing things over, and she loved the sound of the Meyer stuff. And we were trying to get her on in-ears, but she wasn't. I don't think she was receptive to that. She was using these.
Probably
these
should just
Meyer
leave
wedges.
well enough alone.
It was crazy, but anyway, that was during the time when I was working for the act that you met me with.
Yeah.
And Atlantic City, by the way, I spent 4 years as a house person in Atlantic City, so
sure,
Atlantic
the
City
Jersey
is near
thing.
and dear to my heart.
Yeah.
And because I got connected with A1 Audio, and then it was like I got connected with A1 Audio in about 1977 or something, working for this band that I was working for.
Who was the band?
Let's see. The band was a band called Fandango.
Okay.
That let's see, where is it? That is their album cover, but it's not very clear.
But you blurred everything out.
That was one of their album covers. It's called Last Kiss, and the band was pretty great. And by the way, the lead singer in that band was a guy named Joe Lynn Turner, who went on to much fame and fortune. You've heard of Joe Lynn Turner?
That's Joe Lynn Turner. Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So anyway, it was a great band, and their first album was just called Fandango, and it was released on RCA Records, and they needed to do a showcase in LA, in Hollywood, and I went, oh, perfect, I can hire A1 Audio to do the sound, because I love this A1 Audio sound system that I heard doing the sound for the other band. And so I hired A1 Audio, and that started my relationship with A1 Audio, which was huge. And
that was Al Siniscal, right?
Al Siniscal said, yeah, you're
sweetheart
good,
of a guy.
so let's do it. Yeah, great stuff. And he just latched onto me. And so a couple of years later, when I said, hey, I'm ready to move to L.A., I called up their shop, and they said, nothing happening in L.A., but Al happens to be in Atlantic City, New Jersey right now because he needs a new sound person for the Resorts International Casino, which is the only casino that's open right now. It's just when casino gambling was starting in Atlantic City. And so you should go down there and see him because he wants the sound man for the showroom. And I went, showroom? What? They sell cars there? Yeah. I mean, I had no idea. I had no
what
idea
is this
what
thing?
Showroom meant even. What is this
you
thing?
Speak
showroom?
of.
Right. It was great. So I went there and met Al, and his wife at the time, Yosi, was there, and they showed me around, and it was life-changing. And then the musical director there liked me so much that he said, I'm going to work at a new hotel that's being built from the ground up, so let's build it together. You can build the sound system. I'll be the entertainment director. And so he had us design and build the entire sound system for a new hotel that was being built, because Resorts was an old hotel that they just put a bunch of risers in the ballroom, and they called it a showroom. It wasn't ideal. It wasn't ideal.
Yeah.
But man, when he said new hotel with new equipment, I'm going to get a PM2000. I mean, they had a 1000 at Resorts. Yeah. I was going to get a PM2000. Oh, this was great. So we did that. We built the sound system and put it in.
Nice.
Anyway,
nice. Was that still A1? Were they?
Well, so it was A1. Yeah, A1 was the
they were
provider
involved
of the equipment and so forth.
Yeah, because it seemed like they were, for the time, they were ahead of the curve on the casino showroom kind of thing. It seemed to me from a distance, especially in Vegas, and that's more
my perception of it. Yeah, my perception of it was in Vegas or Atlantic City was you would have a sound system installed in a casino showroom, and it would be designed and installed by a consultant. And that consultant was not in touch with reality. I mean, I'm exaggerating. Yeah. But they weren't. Often. They didn't install the greatest thing. So Al would come in and go, "I have this standard casino showroom sound system. Let's put it in your place, and I'll lease it to you," or whatever he did. That financially.
Rings a bell.
It was great. So he took over the Vegas sound market for many years there. Yeah. But it was old school compared to what's happening now, of course. Oh yeah. But it was his thing, and all the artists knew A1 Audio, all the those middle of the road artists. It was great. So anyway, so I did that for a few years with A1 Audio. I even became the Atlantic City representative for A1 Audio. So It was kind of a life-changing thing, yeah. So I was deep in the A1 Audio clique, and that leads me to, I'm sure what you're going to ask me next is how I got connected with Barry Manilow. So in 1979, when I first took that gig in Atlantic City, a friend of mine named Greg Hanley was tour managing for different bands. He was tour managing for Fandango, actually, and then he got a gig tour managing for, of all people, Barry Manilow. And he called me up and said, what's with this A1 Audio company that you're now connected with? And I said, oh, yeah, they're great. They have the best speaker systems because they had that giant, they called it a VIP system. It was a RCA theater bins with amps built right into the bins and
he was
horns
into that
on top.
Too, wasn't he? The powered boxes.
Yeah, Al Siniscal. That's
in a way, yeah.
You know that Al is kind of, I don't know if I would go out on a limb here and say he designed bi and tri-amplification. He came up with that theory. In other words, putting the crossover before the amplifier instead of after the amplifier. Because there was an article in Recording Engineer Producer back in the 70s that Al wrote. Yeah, right. And I remember
Yeah.
carrying that around. It was like my Bible for working for this band. I said, "Oh, we got to switch to bi-amplified system instead of having the crossover after the amp. We'll put the crossover before the amp. It'll be so much better sounding." And it was. And
Hmm.
so anyway, I had this article, and then years later, come to find out, Al wrote it. This is like years later after I
Yeah.
became friends with Al. It was great.
Yeah.
So anyway, the point is that. I did those years in Atlantic City. I connected Greg Hanley with A1 Audio, and he said, "Yeah, let's use A1 Audio for Barry Manilow." And so those two things sort of came together years later when I got an opportunity to work for Barry Manilow's show. And
Around a
it was
while.
always known to be a very challenging gig, and I love challenges.
Sure.
So when I first left Atlantic City, I got a gig with Shirley MacLaine. She was known for being challenging with the sound because she was just really almost never happy. But we
That would do
succeeded
it.
at pleasing her with the sound, you know. And I mean, never
Well,
happy
let
with
me
the
ask
sound
you,
of this.
with some of those artists that you described, what weren't they happy about? Just pick an example.
Well, remember, everybody perceives sound differently,
Of course,
and
of course.
I think the biggest challenge is communicating that what's bothering them
Sure.
to the people. Shirley's favorite phrase was, "I feel like I'm in the bottom of the barrel, the bottom of a barrel," and we would say, "Okay, let's try this," and we try something, and so I worked for her in the '80s with Keith Hubble, and he did the monitors and I did the house, and that was cool. But then years later, she started up again, and her guy said she wants to go back to one sound person. So I said, okay, I can do monitors from front of house, and I developed
Oh,
this
I see.
system where it worked really well. And here's the funny thing, or the interesting thing is, it worked so well, and she was so happy with it. But yet I went back to the dressing room after that show where she was like, "Oh, that was it. That was perfect." And I was like, "Oh, I couldn't tell from where I was." And she said, "Okay, you're fired." because I couldn't tell. I succeeded at that, but she was unhappy with the fact that I didn't realize that she was having a great time. And then the next artist I worked for, give or take, was Engelbert. He was super challenging. And then I worked for many years for Paul Anka, and he was super
Ooh,
challenging
I've
to
heard
please.
about Paul. I've seen videos of Paul Anka chewing out.
Well, he's not the happiest guy, and so he tends to take out his anger in a way that's not so pleasing. Let's just say
Yeah.
sometimes he's a super nice guy. I mean, like we did a gig in Monte Carlo, and it was all going really well, and he's handing out $100 bills in the dressing room afterwards. He knows what's good for the crew,
Yeah.
but
That's
it's
tough,
not
though.
always that way.
Yeah, and,
Yeah,
and
well,
then
so,
your challenge is which Paul Anka is going to show up.
right, of course, yeah. I mean, friends of mine still work for him these days, and he's still as challenging as ever. But he's gotten a lot nicer with age.
Oh my
So,
God! I saw some video. It's probably 10 years old by now, but where he's just chewing out the band members in the kitchen. At one of those
oh,
big places, and
is it the one where he's telling them they got to have shirts? The guys got to have shirts.
yes, I think so.
That's the video that's online. Look it up, people. It's interesting.
It's
The
fascinating, and
guys
it's the
get
real
shirts.
deal. It's the real
Oh
deal.
yeah,
This
it's like
goes
Buddy
on.
Rich.
Yeah, exactly. I
Well,
mean, he was horrible by all
my
accounts.
theory about Paul is that he was burnt by early in his career. Remember, his career started when he was a teenager.
Yep.
So I'm not sure, but I feel like that maybe he was burnt by technical people early in his career, such that he has kind of an edge against technical people.
They get a chip
You
on their
know,
shoulder for a
well,
myriad of reasons. Yeah,
understandably so. I
yeah,
mean, if you get screwed by the technical crew and your voice doesn't come out, or you don't feel comfortable doing a show, that can be devastating.
yeah.
The best piece of advice that Al gave me was, do not go see them right after the show. They may call you to go see them right after the show, but let them settle down just a little bit. They're so wound up from the
Yep.
show. It's a good idea to just wait a few minutes before you
That's
go
good
see
advice.
anybody after the show, whether
Yeah.
it's a compliment or a lashing. It's just going to be a little less if you wait a few minutes. So I start doing the gig, and about a month after I started, and I remember my predecessor was a guy named Kim King, and Kim made it very clear to me that if I ever did some kind of special effect, I should be ready to do that special effect for every show because Paul is going to expect it. Like let's say I did an echo at the end of a song or something like that. He's going to expect that every time. So if you do
they're not
something,
wrong,
be prepared
right?
to do it every show. Of course, of
Yeah,
course.
yeah.
If he likes it, or on the other hand, if he didn't like it, he would, let you know. Anyway, I started doing this effect in one of his songs early on, and it was the times of your life, life. So because the times of your life was a kind of an ethereal song, and I said, oh, let's just do a little repeat on that song, on that life, right? So then a few shows into my time with him, we're at the Atlantic City Golden Nugget, and Artie says you got to use the house console. Oh, okay. Using the house console. It was some Soundcraft console, and we were used to using our Harrison console. So I said, okay, well, let's dial it up. Okay, and I forgot. I was so involved in trying to get it to sound like something, forgot to do that effect. And so it comes to the Inquisition after the show, and he's going around to everybody in the band and everybody on the crew. What about this? What about that? What about you? What about that effect in Times of Your Life? And I was like, I screwed up. There's no two ways about it. I will not do that again. And so that was the beginning of my rapport with him, which he's like, okay, this guy's not going to be a liar and a cheat. I can trust him. And I went on to I became the production manager. I did the production and did the sound at the same time, which was unheard of in those days. I mean, with him. Sure. And then and then he said, well, and I told him I wasn't comfortable doing both jobs because I was, not doing either one very greatly.
Sure.
He said, well, he said, just do the production then. And he rehired his old sound guy back, Artie, and he's hired him back, even though Artie and he had falling out years earlier. Anyway, the point is I went on to become his production manager for a few years. And that was part of my career, was being production manager for Paul Anka. Then this opportunity came up with this Barry Manilow gig because Paul Dalen was mixing front of house. And he was kind of an Electrotech guy. He wasn't like an A1 kind of guy, but he was friendly with A1. Anyway, and he was doing a fantastic job with the sound of their tour that was called Showstoppers. It was kind of a Broadway style show, and he even used headset mics, and that was before headset mics existed.
Right.
He put an MK2. He had MK2s for all the singers on coat hangers. They would shape the coat hanger the way our headset mics are shaped these days, and then they put an MK2, a little Omni mic right there, and it sounded fantastic. And Paul did a fantastic job with that. But he's like, I don't need to keep doing Barry Manilow sound. You can do it if you want. I was like, yeah, I'd love to have an opportunity to do the sound. So I got the opportunity. I started doing the sound at rehearsals, and I remember Jed DeFilippis, who has passed away recently, unfortunately, but anyway, Jed was the stage manager on the show, and he had been the production manager before me on Paul Anka, so we were friends, and we knew each other well. Anyway, so it was all in the family, kind of, and he said these words that I'll never forget. He said, you know what, if you nail this gig, you'll work a lot, because this guy likes to work. Sure enough, that has proven to be very true.
That's
he
true.
likes to work. He's 82, going on 83 in a few months, and he's working like he's a 32-year-old. It's crazy how much he likes to work.
This is a perfect segue, because I want to ask you. I've been asking a handful of people. It's always been curious, something that's, I don't know, I'm curious about. And you and I have talked a little bit about this, but how do you feel? And it's not Barry per se, but in general, when these artists, they keep going when perhaps they should hang it up. We got to be careful how we do this.
I sympathize with them because, as one friend of mine said recently, that's all they know. That's what they've done all their adult life. Right? I sympathize with them. I mean, think about it yourself. Like if you all of a sudden, I mean, some people, granted, some people are ready for a change and they're ready to relax or go travel or pursue their hobbies or what have you, just do podcasts for the rest of their life or whatever, But anyway, but the point is that most people or many people are not able to do that. They just thrive on whatever it is that they've been doing for their life. Yeah. And I know in Barry Manilow's case, he thrives on that audience reaction. He gets energy from that. I am certain of it.
How could you not? Yeah.
Right. And so that audience reaction keeps him alive, so to speak. So therefore, I think I've heard a rumor that he said something along the lines of, "If I stop doing shows, I'm going to die. So why would I stop doing shows?" So I think
hear him
that's the
say
basic
that.
premise. And Barry Manilow is not one to have a lot of hobbies or enjoy traveling or any of the things that some people do in retirement. He's like all about music. He just
Yeah.
wants to play music constantly, and whether it's his show or recording or composing or what have you. He
Yeah.
just wants music constantly.
And I
So
think
good
too.
for him.
I think good for him, absolutely. And I think people like that, especially the singer side of it, they're just wired a little differently. And they've been doing this since they were 10 or 15, and they are focused. And what got them there is this intensity and this focus, and I really respect that. And I think they just love this. But there are
I think
times
they're
where I do
addicted.
think
It's an addiction.
it
It's an
is.
addiction to the audience reaction and to the whole thing, whether they say they like it or not. The whole thing of getting that attention and having the world revolve around
Yep.
you,
Their
and
name on the
that
marquee and
the whole thing. And by the way, I'm a victim of that addiction as well. I mean,
sure.
I don't know about you. If when you were on the road with bands and stuff, when I would come home, I'd be like, oh, now I have to fix my own breakfast. Oh my God, you know,
This doesn't
you
seem
know,
right.
yeah, right. But it's that kind of like you really get treated well, basically speaking,
Yeah.
compared to normal average life when you're
It's
working for a
great.
show.
It's
The show
great.
is just such a so it's like it's a great way of life. It's a great way of life in so many ways, and it's a bad way of life in so many
Yeah.
ways. And as he says, as he was like, I don't know, it's probably about a year ago now. He does this gig in Vegas at the Westgate, and
Oh, I
he
know.
announced to the audience, "I just got a deal, a lifetime deal with the Westgate, so I'm here until I croak." You know,
Well,
so
that'll
great.
cause a rush.
Yeah.
You know what? It'll
So
be in Vegas. They'll be placing bets.
well, it could be.
Is
Could
it
be.
tonight?
But well, then there's like Frankie Valli, who I think is
Oh
retiring
God,
finally. But I've heard rumors about, I've actually not seen his show other than on YouTube or something.
horrible.
But he's just, but here's the funny thing is that backstage I heard he's jovial and chatty and nice and
Maybe he's like, remember
very
when
moves around a lot. But then he gets out on stage and he just holds that microphone and he's
it's
just
so
singing
bad.
like he's
He
like
stooped
he's a
over.
mannequin. He's a mannequin.
And
Yeah.
everybody's just
and he's
worried.
And
know.
he's obviously lip syncing.
Yeah.
But
I wonder, that reminds me. Remember when Muhammad Ali was starting to lose his health, and I would see or hear about people saying, "Well, I sat next to him, and he just seemed like comatose." He was just, and then all of a sudden he went, "How you doing?" He said, and he
About
said,
that,
"I
yeah.
didn't know if he was messing with me or if this is just how this disease progresses."
right. Yeah,
So
there
I
you
was
go.
always very nervous. I'm going to thank you for doing this. There was one thing I wanted to
Sure.
point out to you. You're in the book, and I'm so appreciative of you doing that. It just, I don't know, man. I just love it. But here's a little history for you. Remember this?
Oh yeah.
And
yeah,
in
well,
this one, hang on, I had to look at my note here.
excuse me.
Yeah, okay.
Look,
There
Dooley,
we are.
crank it up, see?
There's the money
Yeah.
shot. But come on, different.
But
But
Yeah.
I loved it. And I've told Clive I said, I didn't copy my book, but I loved this book when it came out.
Uh-huh.
It was over 20 years ago.
was it? Wow.
Yeah. Where are you? You're on page 115. Let's look it up.
I don't know. But
115.
That was
yeah.
when we were at Radio City. They took a picture of our crew, and that's me and Ted and Vince and Harry. Yep, there you go. There we are.
I love it. I love
Yep.
it. I'll let you
And
go,
The
man.
crazy thing is, I'm still doing the same gig.
Same kid.
You know. And by the way, what do I spend most of my time thinking about? What's going to be my next gig?
What
I
is
was
gonna
like,
be your next gig?
Because Barry Manilow isn't going to do it forever.
There is that.
Every couple of years or every few years, or he'll say, "I'm only going to do this for another couple of years," and we all know he's going to do it for as long as he can. But anyway,
But
and
those
what
two
is
things
the
are
next
getting
gig?
closer. Yeah.
But we'll see. But the question is, what can an old sound guy that's been doing Barry Manilow for a long time do? Now, so chances are, well, I hope that Chris Isaac will still want me to work for him. But
Yeah.
Chris Isaac is a gig that I've done on and off, and I did it a couple of years ago for a couple of weeks, and he desperately wanted me. He really wanted me to stay there working for him. And the band liked me, Chris liked me, the manager liked me. I was like, oh, that's great, because it's having the time of my life. So anyway, he's a really fun show to work with, because his show is half comedy, half music, you know,
Right up our
it's
alley.
entertaining. It's entertaining, you know. Yeah, interesting stuff.
Yeah. Hey, I
Anyway,
appreciate you doing
all good
this.
stuff.
This is great. I'll do a little bit of editing
Well,
and
great. Always great to talk with you, whether
yeah.
it's here or in a restaurant or at your home or whatever.
Find
It's
me.
great to talk to you, Greg.
Yeah,
You've got a million great stories, and you ask great questions.
Well, thank
and
you.
Trigger
Thank you.
my.
I
Great
enjoyed it.
memories.
I learned a lot. This has been a good one, man. Go have a good day.
Great. Well, thanks. You too.
I'll see you later, buddy.
See ya.
Take care. How do I hang up?
Bye.